tuning in from where I'm from in Sydney. But good morning. It is Thursday morning, 6:30 here. Been up since 5. Already coached the clients. I have a 5:45 online live stream client. He's 62 years old. He's been with me for like 8 years, and we just do 30 straight minutes of isometric. So push-ups, planks, wall sits, that sort of thing. So by the time I get to you guys, I'm already warmed up for the day. Guys, I'm thinking about, I was just messaging, I know a lot of you guys are from 3D Boxing and Gary, and you know, I think I'm confident we're going to be able to make a lot of money with the cards. We got a lot of odds that are opening up in Ghana. I like the Argentina card, flying under the radar. PJ, what's up, buddy? So PJ, I just emailed you back. I appreciate you emailing me, and I was looking at those fights, and my hesitation out of my own ethical standards before I could give you a truthful input on couple of those fights. I need to look a bit more into the Gorsh fight, and I need to look a bit more into the Mercado fight before I get back to you. I think Ezra, but I'll get back to you in the next few hours. What's up? What's up, Mike? Yeah, we're definitely we're putting bets on. What's up, Goat? Wherever you guys are tuning in, this is Johnny from Sydney. Welcome to my channel. Brett Stewart finally made to a live. There you go. Make sure you like this video. That's all I ask from you. Like this video. Keep the chat going. I do 2 live streams a day this time, and I'll do another one in my late afternoon, usually for about an hour or so, depending on how we go. The first part of the live stream is exactly what you'll read in the title. We talk about that as a focal point, and then as you guys know, we get, what's up, Cash Money? What's up, PJ? What's up, Best Out of the 815? So like I said, yeah, the first part of the live stream, we'll focus on the upcoming fights, and then like always on these live streams, we'll just let it turn into whatever it turns into. So yesterday we turned into the Wild West. I was telling stories about my time hanging out with my boys gang in Long Beach, the TRGs back in the day. So I'm looking at my sports book, and if we are torn on the outcome of Hitchens versus Cambosis and Cruz versus Mashiro, put it this way: if you're not torn on who's going to win, and I think a lot of us see the path to victory for Hitchens and Andy Cruz. If that's the case, the money line on a longer parlay, I'll post that tomorrow. I want to talk about a prop bet here. The juice isn't worth the squeeze if you money line Andy Cruz and Hitchens. $1.10, $1.09, you know what I mean? $100 gets you $16 back. The next thing you should ask yourself, are you comfortable with Hitchens winning a decision? Are you comfortable with Cruz winning a decision? Those odds increase. Now, if you want to go a little safer, do we see either Hitchens or Cruz stopping their opponents? I've been wrestling with that idea all week. I think I'm comfortable. I've been going back and forth. If you see Hitchens, if you see the fight going the distance and you don't want to pick a winner, on my sports book, will the fight go the distance, Andy Cruz? $1.78. Will the fight go the distance, Hitchens versus George? $1.40. You put that on a 2-leg parlay, it pays $2.49. $100 gets you your money back plus $1.50. So what I'm talking about, Chris, I don't want to say that's a lock. And, you know, in boxing, anything could happen. The corner could stop the fight. Your bet would be ruined. I definitely see a path for both guys. Best out of the 815. I have to get back to you. You sent me that email 2 days ago. It kind of got lost because I run my fitness business. I'll get back to you, mate. I didn't forget about you. About doing the live stream for sure. What I was thinking, 815, is we set up a live stream for next week anyway. So without clarifying, I'll get back to you on a professional level. But what I was thinking in my head, we could set something up for next week or the week after. When the week, you hit me up and the week had already started. Brett Stewart. Yeah, so I'll get back to you on that 815. And Brett, I think that if you guys want to go heavy, like, I mean, I know a guy, like, you put $5,000 on that, you'll get your money back. You'll get your $5,000 back plus double on both fights going the distance. And considering Andy Cruz, and you could take that bet the other way, guys. You guys could take the bet the other way. Will Will the fight end within the time and the odds actually increase? Will the fight go the distance? Richardson Hitchins, Kambosis? No, $2.85. So if you think George is going to stop Hitchens, or if you think Hitchens is going to stop George, or if you just feel something that fight's going to stop, Blue Collar Living, what's up? Havelock, what's up, buddy? I appreciate you hitting the like button. Yeah, 24 guys watching. This thing sometimes, we've been averaging everywhere between 40 and 80 on these live streams. So just remember to like the live stream. A lot of you guys maybe just don't know, you haven't done it yet. It helps with the analytics. It helps with the channel. And it helps to remind the subscribers who haven't hit the notification button that I'm live. That's another thing in my edited videos. I tell you guys, that bell icon, hit that. I'm uploading a video today as well. I got, it's always cool to see boys in the comment section. I think the Hitchens will miss weight. Why do you say that, Gold member? You think he'll miss weight? Or you, trolling. So will the fight go the distance? Hitchens, Kambosis, yes, $1.40. No, $2.85. Guys, I think there's a lot of value there. I really do. And then Andy Cruz. Will the fight go the distance? $1.78. Yes. 2-1, no. So the odds are pretty interesting. Which of the two can you see having a better chance of getting the finish? Mike, I think if I had to pick one to get a stoppage, it would be Andy Cruz over Mishiro. I got Hitchens and Cruz by knockout, and there's good money on it. And Campos, okay, that's the video, Thomas. I'm uploading the Campos versus Donaire fight. That fight is in Argentina, but also another fight to add value. Look if you could bet on Juan Francisco Estrada, El Gallo. He's fighting in Mexico. Juan Francisco Estrada, we last saw him fight against Bam Rodriguez. He's fighting as well. So if you like Hitchens by unanimous decision, indifferent to the money line, what odds are you getting? Who's going to steal the show? Gold member, I think it's set up for Hitchens to steal the show. I've been watching Media Week, and a lot of you guys are boxing heads like myself. I'm sure you've been watching on the social medias, the face-offs. I always like George's shit talk. We always talk about that. George, he'll come back and talk some trash, and you can't say that about all Aussie boxers. A lot of Aussie fighters don't have the banter part of their game. We talked about that yesterday, but George does. And so even that being said, they had a $50,000 bet. George tells Hitchens, and I actually believe him, he said that rather than betting him 50 grand, he bet on himself at 7-1 dog. And, hearing him say that he was a 7-1 dog and he bet on himself, I like what I heard, but actually hearing him admit that he was a 7-1 dog, I don't know. I think, to answer your question, to put a final period on that, an exclamation point, I think Hitchens is set up in New York, his first title defense, to have an electrifying performance. And he needs that. We haven't seen, of the champions, we already talked about this all week, and I think whenever we have a world title fight, whenever we're ready to bet our money on a fighter, it's important to be aware of the landscape of the division, the 140-pound division. So when you take Hitchens as the champion there, and you see that you got Teo, you got Puello, you got Gary Antoine Russell, right now, based on past performances, I think we could all agree, I don't see Hitchens of the champions right now beating GAR, beating Puello, or beating Teo. Now, all of that could be switched on its head if Hitchens goes into this weekend and has an electrifying performance. We've yet to see Hitchens stop somebody in dramatic fashion in a dogfight, turn to the crowd, and suck it all in. You know what I mean? He's 27 years old. Is he capable of that? I'm not sure. Can I see that happening? I think so. And if it does happen, I think it has to happen against Kambosos Jr. We know George has only fought at 140 once. It was his last fight. Watch the Jake Wiley tape, guys. Wasn't a great performance. And he gets the TKOs. I think so too, Mar Prince. We'll focus on that as well. I think, so you already heard my opinion on Hitchens. I could see it happening. Andy Cruz, I think you guys know by now, I'm a fan of Andy Cruz. I think he's world class. And you guys know I'm a fan of Bozy. And we talked about it in my breakdown and analysis, if you watch that video, that you could see the work the Philadelphia coach is putting on Cruz in terms of how he sits on his shots. He makes the decision. If you watch his amateur career, he always would make the decision to exchange and counter and exit. In his 2 stoppages in the pro ranks, he's turning on shots. Andy Cruz is Keyshawn's daddy. In the amateurs, I'd rank them G.A.R., Teo, Puello, Hitchens in terms of resume, but I got Hitchens beating them all. But hot take, you got it. So you see Richardson Hitchins beating Puello and Teofimo Lopez. Like I said, depending on what Richardson Hitchins we see this weekend, I don't know if I would disagree with you on that. PJ, Andy Cruz's opponent never gets stopped. Yeah, PJ, you have to look at Mishiro, who he's fought. He's 17-1-1. Mishiro is a domestic-level Japanese fighter. Tomas, with that parlay, put it in the comment. When I upload these videos, guys, because it's a live stream and we know the comments don't stay, but if you go to my playlist that says predictions, you'll see the video there saved. If you want me to go over your parlays, put it there and I'll have a look at it. There's only one style, Richardson Hitchins. I'm hearing Hitchens versus Cambosis. Yeah, I guess there's like 4,000 tickets that haven't been sold. I don't know about Hitchens. You said that the version of Hitchens is what we see is what we get. I don't know, because early on in his pro career, he fought differently. You could watch tape of Richardson Hitchens fighting on his front foot. You could also watch tape of Hitchens even in this fight week talking about how he was given advice from Andre Ward. And Andre Ward told him to fight a certain way to become a world champion and not listen to the fans, to be drawn into dogfights. So with that being said, I think it's been a tactical decision and it's paid off for him. He's a world champion now, kind of flying under the radar due to his performances, but he said out of his own mouth, that's all he cares about is winning and not what the fans think about his style. So with that being said, once again, would I expect him to fight George on the front foot if he wants to prove a point? I hope so. He was still living the projects. He had a chip on his shoulder. Now he has money. He doesn't care. Yeah. I mean, when you watch him train and you watch his physicality and you, like on paper, you look at, his length, 74-inch reach, 5'11", 140 pounds. I mean, on paper, Richardson Hitchins' frame, the length, we know in boxing, knockout artists aren't normally muscled up, tight, big guys. Like on paper, the casual would see a body type in like Troy Isley. On paper, you would see a body type, casual see a Troy Isley body type, and they think he's a knockout artist. But we know he's not a knockout artist. In boxing, it's the longer reach guys. Think of Tommy Hearns. Think of Kelly Pavlik. Think of these guys with long reaches and using their length to generate force whipping shots on their either straight shots or their hooks. And those are usually the frames that get a lot of knockouts. And Hitchens has that frame. He has a long jab. It's just that he doesn't engage. He won't punch with you. He won't stay in the phone booth out of tactics. And I understand that. But would I like to see that? Yes, as a fan. Will he do that against Kambosos Jr.? He says he's going to. He claims he's going for the stoppage. We know as fans, how much can we take? Do we believe him? I don't know. Matchroom is strategic. Kambosos will make it a dogfight. And if Rich wants any chance at Riyadh, he can't just be defense all night. Guys, that's a talking point nobody's brought up. Great point, Gold member. I don't know where do you guys stand on Turkey Al-Sheikh's 2 tweets yesterday? And we could continue the prop bets. You guys still ask the gambling questions, how we see it. But I put 2 tweets from Turkey Al-Sheikh up on the channel yesterday. I'm sure you guys have read them and you saw them on other sources. Yeah, Mike, George's path to victory. My problem with George's path to victory, short arms. He doesn't use his jab. And then you put that against... Yeah, let's talk about Turkey's comments. I don't agree. All right, GOAT, best out of 815. Yeah. I'm going to tell you guys, just so you guys know, you guys support my channel and you expect me to always keep it 100. And you guys ask about my personal life, I always tell you. I'm super, I pride myself on authenticity. I don't agree with Turkey either. I don't. And it's odd, his list as well. And, that seems, everything Turkey does, you could tell he's being told to do it. I don't like this sort of shadow government happening in boxing right now. Everything Turkey says is, back in the 90s, we would say word is bond. Everything that Turkey says, we just have to take his word as bond. Nah, man. Like some of the lists too. All right, mate, you're going to send a list of guys that you want to see box and put that out there and totally disregard the current landscape of those specific weight classes. And then say about, do you not know, Turkey, you don't know how to box, mate. Turkey, you've never been in a dogfight. You've never been in a gym. You've never climbed the ladder. Probably, when you look, I don't want to get too political, but part of boxing, especially on the pro level, becoming a world champion, is climbing the level. Domestically, going from a prospect to a contender, and there's matchups, and you have to earn your way to get there. So when you see guys get to a certain level and you complain about their fight styles, I think that's one thing that, not everybody can complain about. Do we want to see bloodbaths and wars? All right. I mean, we always talk about they're like the Dana White model. What's up, D? The Dana White model with taking prospects and making them fight, I don't think that's good for the sport. And look at the numbers over the last 18 months to 2 years, because just don't get it twisted. I watch every UFC fight. I could tell you about every UFC fighter. I've watched every UFC fight dating back over 15 years. My old roommate in Sydney was the first female Australian ever to fight in the UFC, Alex Chambers. She was on the 2015 reality show, season 20, the first ever reality show for the girls. She was on the season with Rose Namajunas. She fought Rose. Her name was Alex Chambers. My point is, and before that, dude, I was interviewing guys like Hoist Gracie, Ken Shamrock long ago. My point is, what Dana does with his up-and-comers, and I always reference one specific fight. You don't have to go down the history books to see much evidence of when he made the fight with Yair Rodriguez. And granted, Yair has had a decent career, and he still has big fights. But Yair Rodriguez was and filling out arenas in Mexico before the Frankie Edgar fight. Yair Rodriguez, what Dana White failed to realize is that Yair Rodriguez had all of Mexico supporting him. He was 21, 22 years old, long striker, beautiful striking. And if you know what I'm talking about, you know the story. And you see a 21, 22-year-old with a whole nation behind him, marketable, had the U.S. behind him too, the western part. He was selling out arenas, wasn't even fighting on the main events yet. And Dana White takes him and pairs him up against a 2-weight class division badass world champion in Frankie Edgar. Granted, Frankie wasn't a champion at the time, but we know Frankie's style. Grappler, heavy, wrestler, and you take that against a Mexican striker who's 21, and Frankie beat the dog piss out of him. And Yair hadn't fought. I think Yair took a year or so off. And you look at how active he was after that loss. He lost a couple years of his prime in that one fight. Do we want to see that in boxing? I don't want to see that in boxing. And, certain guys like Abdullah, who is, Abdullah's 21 years old, based on his performances and the algorithm of the rankings and the sanctions, Abdullah just, he's so good. He's put himself, I think he's in the top 10 or near the top 10. So there's nowhere else to go for Abdullah to fight the best at 35. But there's guys like that Turkey's talking about just my whole point of this is in boxing, you got to be careful if you're rushing the process. That was my long-winded take. I can't complain on who will be on the Nello versus Bud card because it'll be free. Yeah. That was my long-winded take on it. Boxing's different than MMA. It's a totally different thing. You can't take those same premises and methodologies. And I don't agree with them how Dana does that. And, it becomes like a feeding ground for either veterans to get washed, which, you get sort of ranked out, or young prospects to get washed. They have their ring sizes for a reason. And that's something we didn't even talk about. When you look at the UFC, we know it's been well documented if you guys are fans. Since COVID, they hold those fights in the Apex. Guys, look how small that octagon is in the Apex compared to main events. Now, why is that a point here? The smaller octagon favors the grappler and wrestlers because a striker will strike at space and distance. You pair a striker against a grappler at the Apex, You mix that with no crowd, and you can't say no to Dana. If you say no to fights X amount of times, you're gonna get canceled out. And this is how Dana does a lot of politics like that doesn't get spoken about enough. Also, the media. This is another thing that doesn't get spoken about enough. This is why I'm not sold on Dana working with boxing and long term, is because he has a monopoly on the media as well at live events. So this dates back to Ariel Helwani, when Ariel Helwani used to report, and that's why you don't see him at live events, because Dana White has the power to blackball the media. He has a monopoly on it. So when you see guys asking questions at press conferences, these are people not necessarily handpicked, but these are people where Dana gets to control the narrative. You'll never see a reporter with a microphone at the press conferences talking about, hey, Conor, talking about when Conor was fighting, anything controversial about what's going on in the court cases or performance-enhancing drugs, etc. All the questions are kind of handpicked. That's another thing that doesn't get spent, and he's been doing that for years. So he's been able to create the narrative. What do they always say? The country that wins the war writes the history books. And so when you have the UFC, which is a monopoly, look how they bought out the WEC. This goes back to where Uriah Faber came from, where Josie Aldo came from. The list goes on and on of how many champs came over from the WEC days. Dana White buys the WEC out. They were exciting to watch. Some of my favorite fights happened in the WEC. So rant ended. Just so you guys know, yeah, it's kind of a hotbed issue for me. I'm not a big fan of Dana coming into boxing. Same with Turkey, Haney. I think the romanticism on Turkey coming into boxing, for me and a lot of people who were skeptical initially, ended in New York City. Why does that event have no fans? This is what Turkey doesn't understand. Part of boxing, part of fighting, the fighters feed off of energy. And however woo-woo that sounds, think about if you're watching Arturo Gatti, Mickey Ward with no crowd. Think about, you know what I'm saying? Or if you're watching a Mike Tyson fight with no crowd in his prime. So, I think about how flat those fights were in New York. No crowd. Why I don't get that. The story of how Dana White, everything, even hands in the WWE, Dana, the TKO would actually work. You heard about it. Yeah. What happened to that? So yeah, I could get a little, it's a bit, too close to home, man. Dana White, the guy got run out of Boston. He was started in the boxing space. The story of Dana White should be, and this is a compliment, from an entrepreneurial perspective. So on one of my old podcasts and in my first book, I used to interview entrepreneur CEOs. This would have been in 2015. I had, guys like Gary Vaynerchuk, Grant Cardone, these sort of people. And sitting down with those guys, part of my headspace when because I work for myself, everything that I have, I work for myself, so I'm relied upon for my livelihood. And my point is, Dana White's legacy should be, and this is a compliment, from an entrepreneurial perspective, in my opinion, one of the greatest steals, and I use that in a good way, one of the greatest steals in U.S. entrepreneurial history was in the early 2000s when Dana White pitched to the Fertitta brothers, two brothers who are entrepreneurs in Vegas who had already made their millions. Google, I'm sure you guys know him, Lorenzo Fertitta and his brother. He pitched them to be an investor in him buying the UFC, which was a failing company, for $1 million. This was, I think, in 2002, maybe 2001, 2002, 2003, for $1 million. Look at what he sold the UFC for, I think in 2016, $4 billion. That's his legacy. Business side of things, being able to talk to Fertittas, not go out of pocket, didn't have any money to put down, came from Boston, got ran out of Boston as a boxing promoter, had to come to Vegas due to the mob in Boston, and then saw a room for growth, saw a potential area business-wise in the failing UFC, pitches to Fertittas, they back him financially, they buy it for $1 million and sell for $4 billion, which is insane. So from a business side, that's when I think of Dana. From a boxing side and how you could talk about fighter pay. I don't like getting into the dirty side of things, but I think that should be the narrative. And and that's why he has the power to blackball reporters. That's why he has the power to blackball fighters. But yeah, The fight was electric. Such an underrated fight. What did I miss, Gold member? Will. Gold member and Will. When I'm hearing electric fights. In reference to my comment. Hey, guys, you don't have to agree with me. I'm not saying anything. Hitch not getting a KO. Yeah, okay. So take the fight to go the distance, because if you take Hitch just to win, the odds are shit. But if you obviously you don't think George is going to stop him. So if you don't want to take a winner and you don't think anyone's getting stopped, it pays $1.50. So I think that's the bet. I think I'm going to sprinkle a little bit on both ways. Both fights to go the distance on Cruz and Hitchens. So there, that pays 2-1. Turkey delivering with the Ben Eubank card. That wasn't just Turkey though. That wasn't the football stadium. The storyline of Nigel Benn and Chris Eubank Sr. You know what I mean? It was that. And I think a lot of Americans, I'm not speaking for all Americans, but I'm not quite sure all American boxing fans understood that rivalry that took place in the 90s between Nigel Benn and Chris Eubank, and how that has sort of reverberated into the ethos and the culture in the UK. This is what sold that fight. And that's why I would stay away from Andy on points, though. He can get a knockout. Okay, Drew, so I agree. So if you see Andy stomping him, those odds of Andy stomping him, I like that bet too, by the way. So Cruz by stoppage pays $2-1. 2-1. If you like Cruz by stoppage, 2-1. And Adam, I don't know when you tuned into this live stream, but I brought that up. I was talking about how, give me 1 second, Goat. I was talking about how I think Hitchens has the best opportunity to have his moment. At 27, Hitchens is a world champion. He hasn't had his moment. Has he gone viral? What's Africa gone viral for? And that's not supposed to sound like a casual take, because now at this stage of the game, 2025 in boxing, we could kind of use a fighter going viral in the ring for a positive outcome as a sort of anchor point in their career of having a good moment. You know, if you're doing statistics and you're trying to talk about the legacy of a fighter's career, he hasn't had his moment. So, guys, we're going to transition to answer Goat's question. He asked me about the Ghana card. And you guys know I'm high on this Ghana card. Only because, we got Brandon Glanton. Let's see. I like Brandon Glanton by stoppage. No prop. We got Tabiti on this card versus Dickinson. No prop. Only money lines. Daniel Gorsh. I like the Daniel Gorsh-Alate fight. No prop. So to answer your question, nope. Hasn't opened yet. This is my Thursday morning. Based on the history of my betting app, those prop bets will open tomorrow. And granted, and you guys know me well, I'm going to post them for sure. I'm also going to start putting together my long parlay. So tune into my live stream later on today if you can. I'm going to be putting my long parlay together. If you missed the live, I put these videos up on my channel, so you'll see them as well. Guys, wherever you are, we got 44 people watching. Like this video. It's all I ask from you. I get a lot of requests to start a Patreon. I get a lot of requests to start a Discord. I'm going to give it a couple more weeks. Let these live streams simmer, and I might do it. But for now, everything I talk about, I give away for free. We've hit every week. We had a couple weeks of not losing any fights. Cambosis. So CEO, if you really like George, take him. We get those fights. We don't have the money lines yet. Oh, you don't even have options on it yet? Okay, that's why I'm going to go. The odds, the Gorsh fight is looking juicy. No, Adam, Matias isn't this weekend. Subaru Matias is fighting Alberto Puello not this weekend. So one thing you guys can know for sure, if you're new to my channel and you're catching these live streams and we're talking about fights and odds and outcomes, we're week to week. We stay week to week. Now, if you have a question about who do I think is going to win a fight taken in the future, ask me that question. Has let the belt go to his head. I can actually see him getting beat. Brett, in my breakdown, Brett Stewart, and if you guys watch my analysis breakdown prediction, I tell you guys, I am cheering for George to beat Hitchens. But my dad always told me, Johnny, don't ever bet with your heart, bet with your wallet. So I'll be cheering for George to win, but I'm not betting on him. That's all. Sounds odd. Like EJ versus Bud. I was cheering for Errol Spence to beat Bud, but I predicted and bet heavy on Bud to stop EJ, and I won a lot of money. And it's kind of like how I run my channel. Just because I'm a fan of a fighter, and I know some of the guys I've broken their videos down. Dana Coolwell, when Dana Coolwell fought Bruce Carrington, and when Dana Coolwell fought Chop Chop Gonzalez, Dana's a buddy of mine. And, you know, I had it for the people who come to my channel for advice to bet. I messaged Dana. I was like, Dana, you know, I love you, bro. I hope you win every fight. And he understood. He was like, man, he was like, when I beat Shoo Shoo and when I beat Chop Chop, I'm coming at you. I was like, come at me, but like, these are bad matchups, man. Carrington, I think. So anyway, what you guys could resonate with that is I will never pick an outcome based on giving bad advice. Because at the end of the day, we're trying to get the bag. George's the big heavyweight guy. I lost 7K on Liam Perro. I thought he could pull it off. Yes, I didn't bet 7K. Brian Norman, who's at 30-90. I love that fight for Norman versus Sasaki. I'm breaking that fight down. You're going to see my prediction. I'm not saying a lot of people are underrating Sasaki, but Sasaki could punch. Is he a well-oiled machine? Meaning, is he a finished product? Is he technically, defensively? Does he show a lot of looks entering the pocket? Is he one-dimensional? There's a lot of those things that you could say, you know, he's not a well-finished product. He's not that technically sound. Is he a one-trick pony regarding what he wanted to do offensively? I think so. I think Norman is going to have the game plan to beat Sasaki. I think Norman's a great athlete. I'm high on Brian Norman Jr. I'm going to wait till fight week for those odds, though. Can punch, but he's all away once. That's what I'm saying. Zorro, that was my point. Sasaki has one look. It's kind of like when you look at fighters and you're starting to dissect what they could do with their tool belt, their arsenal. We'll just talk offensively. It's easy for us as fans to get kind of honey-dicked into seeing a big puncher or a guy with a high knockout-to-win ratio. Think of Subaru Matias. You know, he had that 100% knockout-to-win ratio. He has a good backhand, but does he have a well-rounded offensive arsenal when you're thinking about feints, when you're thinking about punch speed, when you're thinking about angles, when you're thinking about openings, when you're thinking about offensive attack? No, a lot of it is predictable. Charles Conwell, same thing. We saw that in the Chino fight. Conwell enters the same way. All of his setups are the same. It becomes predictable. And you guys, you could go to my live stream of Fabio Wardley versus Justice Hooney. We know how that ended. But in the 9th round, in the live stream, you could hear me say live, I talk about Justice Hooney's tell. And I was saying, guys, something that you should be watching. I was like, Hooney, you know, he was on his way to win, but he got knocked out. In the 9th round, I said, for future opponents who fight Justice Hooney, they're going to see his tell. And what was Hooney's tell? His lead foot, he would double tap his, what Hooney does is he double taps his front foot twice, entering the pocket, double taps it twice, throws the jab. And I was like, dude, that is such an easy tell to pick up on. I don't know if Wardley's going to be able to see it in the fight, but future Hooney opponents will be able to see that. And the next round, double tap, throws the right hand, gets knocked out. So my point is, at the highest level, you have to have a couple. You could get away with not having a diverse arsenal offensively against fighters who maybe don't have the fight IQ or the skill set to make you pay. But Conwell, when he fought Chino made him pay. He was able to answer that entry, and Conwell didn't have a plan B. He got smothered on the left side and couldn't do anything. So with Sasaki, I think we're going to see that versus Norman. Norman answered some questions for me in his last fight regarding his defense. He gets hit. He's there to get hit. He made some adjustments. I just love his attack. I love his willingness to engage. There's another fighter who's fighting this weekend. Brandon Glanton fights in Ghana. We saw him fight. We saw him go to the UK against Chris Billum-Smith, and Billum-Smith beat him. And I think that Glanton is going to take what Billum-Smith taught him regarding entries. Because with the Glanton fight, you saw the same thing. A guy who's so willing to trade, a guy who wants to land his power shots, but a guy who doesn't hide it behind a jab, a guy who doesn't sort of have the sort of show signs, doesn't have the entrances to get in without getting countered. And I expect Glanton to have added that to his game. We'll see. Is his opponent as good as Chris Billensmith? No. Is his opponent set up for Glanton to come from America to Africa to knock him out? I think so. Andy Cruz knockout, Hitchens decision. What's your take? Lloyd, this is the one we've been wrestling with. If we want to go stoppage route, if we want to go method of victory on those two fights, I feel that Cruz has the higher chance of winning by stoppage. And I feel Hitchens, if you want better odds than Hitchens just winning a decision, at least my sports book is offering $1.49 for the fight to just go the distance. So even if you think Hitchens is going to win, the money line's $1.10. If you think the fight's going to go the distance, take the $1.49. And if George springs the upset, you still win. Glanton is fighting. Yeah, I know. GOAT, I know. Those are the props we're waiting for. And fingers crossed, guys, our sports books, wherever you're tuning into this in the world, allow us to take these African prop bets. There's a card in Ghana. They brought over a lot of Americans to showcase some power. The fights are going to be electric, and I don't think the fights are going to go too long. You got, let's go over that card real quick, guys. Daniel Gorsh, 15-0. Alate, 10-0. On paper, that's going to be, I think, the only 50-50 fight. Daniel Gorsh, Alate. Not a heavyweight fight. Andrew Tabiti, Jacob Dixon. You guys should recognize both guys. So to answer your question about Gorsh versus Alate, I don't want to just give you my prediction based on odds. I have to do a breakdown. Alate's the underdog here, and I'm thinking about sprinkling some money on him. I can see Alate beating Gorsh. He does some things better than him. That's not my prediction. I'll give you my prediction later on in the day. It's a fight I'm looking at. But O'Hara Davies is on that card. The Lardy brothers, Jesse Lardy, Jerry Lardy, if you know who those guys are. Tabiti should win by stoppage. I'm waiting, fingers crossed, to get those prop bets. I mean, Tabiti showcase fight. Jacob Dixon, good record, 14-1. We know Tabiti. You know, his two losses, Justice Huni, and then he got stopped by Dorticus. But, you know, he took Justice Huni to the distance. He's coming off a knockout victory. He is up there. He's 35 years old. But, you know, I don't think he has too much tread on him. I think he should have enough energy to win by stoppage. And he looks the part. We'll see if those odds open up. They build a card around him. I mean, the Ghanaian people, they build a card around him. It's an interesting card. I think DAZN is playing it. So if you guys have DAZN, it'll be a decent card to watch. And then you boxing heads like me, Ronnie Hines, I saw him on that card. We got fights in Argentina, Mexico, Africa. There's some money to be made, boys. Is Hines on this card? Oh, Hines is on the New York card. What am I missing? When's Hines fighting? Or are you talking about that OTX card? Guys, we don't get odds for that OTX card. I haven't covered Nonito, but I'm uploading that breakdown. National Black card. I'm not seeing it on BoxRec, Hines. The 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I'm only getting 8 fights on BoxRec. Hitchens versus George. Cruz versus Mishiro. Valdez versus Diaz. Taramona is a heavyweight from Australia versus Whitfield. Nishant Dev versus Silva. Maka versus Castillo. And then Zachwin Moses, Shakur's cousin, versus Carl Rogers. That's all I have right now. Guys, Nishant Dev is that Indian fighter who made his pro debut. We covered him. He won by viral knockout. And Turki Al-Sheikh all of a sudden is all over him, wanting Nishant Dev with one pro fight, using him as a sprint. I'm like, dude, there's so many other guys with, you know, young dudes. That list, Turkey's list, don't give me, Turkey's list was like, come on, bro. Who wrote this list for you? I'm not seeing Ronnie Hines on BoxRec. Yeah, you're leaving the Taramona fight alone, GOAT. No Pablo Valdez on the books. I'm not seeing it. Not on my book. Okay, GOAT, I see what you're saying. It's going to be a close fight. he's such a big favorite versus Whitfield. But that's Alan. I think Alan Whitfield got popped. Guys, GOAT, I'm not going to lie to you. GOAT has brought some upsets to the table over the last month. So, GOAT, are you saying you're just going to leave it alone? Or are you going to sprinkle something on the 28-1 underdog against Terramona? Terramona's a monster. Doesn't have a lot of pro experience. And Aleem is a 28-1 dog. To get back to your question about Mercado, one of the boys on the live stream, PJ, emailed me. And in my response to his email, he emailed me his parlay. You guys could do that too. I'll get back to you. I got my email is my name at iCloud. It's in my bio if you go to on my YouTube channel. But the Mercado fight is the one I need to get back to PJ on, and then whoever asked that question. Because like I said, I'm not a guy that's going to give you advice looking at odds and tell you to bet on it if I don't do my due diligence. I know who both guys are. I just got to kind of do a little bit more research. I have my own methods. I want to see what they look like recently. I want to watch their last fights. I want to see their training camp a bit. I want to see if they, what they've been talking about. I like watching the fight week media as well. Yeah, sprinkle on the underdog. Why do you say that? GOAT, is your opinion on the Terramona fight based specifically on the odds, or is your opinion on it because of the matchup, because you see something in Aleem that you think that he could spring the upset? Cambosis could get dropped. I mean, he's a tough out. We saw him get stopped against Loma. He's going to be there to get hit. The thing about George entering the pocket against Hitchens is he doesn't have a great jab, and he moves a lot. He's kind of frantic with his movements, but even his entrances over rounds is predictable. Initially, if you see George coming in the first few times, you're like, oh, that's kind of an interesting puzzle to solve. But because of all of his movements are on the same patterns, left, right, down, that sort of thing, over a fight, a high-level fighter will pick that up and then see that as predictable. He doesn't have a lot of variance in his frantic movements, if that makes sense. Okay, so it's more the odds. I predict to win, but heavyweight. Okay, GOAT. Then if it's based on the odds, I don't. Terramona is that dude, mate. Trust me. His amateur record, how he fights, how he trains, who he's been sparring with. Terramona's that dude. He's going to get fast-tracked. That's why they took him off of the Jaya Pattaya card, to showcase him in America. Terramona's going to get fast-tracked. He's going to stop this dude. That's why I was waiting to tell you that until you answered me, because I saw Aleem's record. I don't know too much about him, but I looked at his resume. But all the media down here, people were initially upset that they took Terramona is a draw already. And people were salty that he got taken off the Jaya Pattaya fight card. But then when it was announced that he's going to be on the New York City card, the way the boxing community here is in Australia, everybody was happy for him. So because he's going to get to be showcased. That's a showcase knockout. That's a show. What? That's a lock, mate. They put that little glossy record 10-0. That's a lock, mate. This dude, when you look at like his width, his length, his width, how he fights. Guys, Google Terramona Jr. YouTube Terramona Jr. His fight highlights. Not a lot of tape on him, but learn about that guy. He's another heavyweight from Australia. Massive. So we got 47 people tuning in. Let's like this video. My OCD would tell me that 47 watching, we should have 47 likes. But maybe that's something wrong with YouTube's analytics. We're on this stream for another, we're 43 minutes in. Did he get taken off the card, only be showcased? No, he got taken off the card. He got taken off the card to be showcased. That's the narrative they've spun down here. That's what everybody down here, I know a couple guys who, I told you about these guys throughout the live streams a couple weeks ago. They go from gym to gym. They're in their 20s. They're streamers from Sydney, and they travel with George. They're in Jersey right now getting ready for the George card. These are the guys I turn to when things like this happen. And I asked specifically about Terramona not fighting on the Jai card, and they're like, no, this is for him to get showcased on the international level with the Americans. So think about the void right now in American heavyweight boxing in terms of, the void of a current superstar, especially with a trajectory to become a world champion. So PJ, you just hit the like button. There's a thumb up. Great honesty. How do you like the live? There's a thumb up button. Hit the thumb up button. But you guys know we talk about this before. My favorite U.S. heavyweight right now is Kiki Torres. But is he a polished guy that could win a world title right now? I don't think so. I don't think so. I like Kiki for how reckless he is and how he fights. The dude is a dog. But his style concerns me on the world level because it works until it doesn't work. And we know how that turns out. Time to go freeze my ass off at work. It's only 2 degrees here in Melbourne. Brett Stewart, my guy. Appreciate you, buddy. Thanks for finally catching the live stream. Brett's been supporting the channel for at least since we started, going on 2 years. I'm going to keep this going for a little bit longer. I have a powerlifting session in about 45 minutes. The good thing on my end is that I built my own little setup in my house, so my clients come to see me. But I'll leave this on for a little longer. We got Pablo Valdez. Somebody asked about. Huge favorite. Is he fighting Cesar Vaca? No. Andy Cruz favorite. The odds are going down. Guys, there's a Japanese card too that just popped off. Goat, if you're still on this live stream, Goat, check your sportsbook odds. Are you guys getting the Japanese fights? There you go. How many times will Johnny bring up Torres? I know. Well, Goat, who's your favorite U.S. heavyweight? I like the guy who's 2-0. I like the young American, the dude who's 2-0 with 2 knockouts. I keep forgetting his name. I'm pissed that I forget his name. He fought on the Hollywood Fight Night cards. He's fun to watch. He's only 2-0. I mean, who else do we got in America? Jared Anderson. I mean, who am I missing in the heavyweight division? But the fight you just Nonito Donaire. He's a favorite against Campos. And like I said, my heart, I'm an old guy. I cheer for the old heads. If there's ever a storyline with a guy like Donaire, Hall of Fame career, still having a go, obviously my romantic side wants me to see Donaire win. He's actually the favorite against Campos. I can't sit here and tell you that I think he's going to win yet. It's a good question. I don't really have a few. Fury. Okay, Fury's, yeah, not an American. So yeah, my question, my response, Goat, isn't the international landscape of heavyweights. It's specifically the U.S. up-and-comers. Who do we have? I mean, obviously, we had Wilder for a while. Yeah, the U.S. used to be known for heavyweights. Nonito Donaire, I'll get back to you. That's what I'm thinking, Zorro. I think Campos has a route. Campos has a couple routes to victory. So, Mark Vasquez, I agree with you. Kiki Torres. Tulare, California. I love that he wears on his short. This is also the romantic side of me. I love that he wears on his shorts, Tolare. If you guys don't know what Tulare is, that is a farming community in California. So I built over the last 15 years, I built a friendship with Stitch Duran. So Stitch Duran, another reason why I don't like Dana White, Stitch Duran got blackballed from the UFC. He's a famous cut man. You've recognized Stitch Duran in all the early UFC fights. You've seen him on the Creed movies. I've become friends with him over the last 15 years. I've interviewed him multiple times. He's a great guy. If you guys could ever have a chance to meet Stitch Duran, do it in person. But he grew up on one of these migrant farming communities in California where his parents didn't even have names. His parents had a number. And he has a book called From the Farm to the Ring. I think it's called From the Farm to the Ring. And so when I hear that, Tulare, California, I don't know what the landscape it is currently, but back in the day, it was one of these communities like that, where you had a lot of, farmhands, farm work from the migrant community coming from Mexico, trying to build a life for themselves. And I just like that Kiki Torres represents where he comes from as well. You mix that with his, what he did in the amateurs and then how he fights. I think Kiki Torres is an overachiever in terms of being a heavyweight. He's a lot bigger than he looks. When you see that guy in person, he's a big boy. But, dude, young heavyweight who tucks the chin and throws that overhand backhand. I'm a fan. I hope he has a long, illustrious career. Like I said, is he ready on a world level? I don't think so. I think 2 years laid off Donaire. I don't have news. PhD trained. Okay, Lloyd. That's the type of intel that we want, Lloyd Hernandez. Lloyd, where do you live at? Where are you tuning in from? Because that's the type of intel which will make me take Campos. You know what I mean? Because I was already leaning towards Campos. I was already leaning for my money towards Campos. Guys, Juan Estrada's fighting too. I know he's not a huge name, but look at Estrada's career, guys. Estrada had a okay, so PA. Yeah. So you know your boxing. Of course you do. You know, my friends from the Philippines, dude. This isn't supposed to be a stereotype. I have 3 or 4 really close friends from my California days who know boxing in and out, and they know pool in and out. So I used to play a lot of barroom pool, and these guys were animals at pool. So yeah, that's why I asked. I think Campos could beat Donaire. And Juan Francisco Estrada, El Gallo, is fighting in Mexico. There's some. Give me until tomorrow, guys. I'm going to do another live stream today, and hopefully we can start piecing my long parlay together. By tomorrow morning's live stream, I'll definitely have my parlay sorted, but I'm waiting for the Tokyo card because Kazuki Nakajima is a guy, the odds are great. He's a Japanese fighter. If you don't know who he is, he's headlining a card in Japan. The odds are nice. I think that's a good fight for us to end the weekend on. It's after the New York card. Gallo's fighting Arce's nephew. How do you see that going? I think Estrada, that fight. I'm just checking the odds real quick. Michael Soro's fighting. There's some good fights. I love the Mexico cards. Did they take the card off of B fights? Andy Cruz, C fights. Gallo by knockout. Okay. I could see that happening. I mean, he didn't look washed against Bam. I mean, he got beat against Bam, but Estrada had his moments. So when I was watching him, I didn't see a guy that didn't have anything left in the tank. He fought a good fight until he didn't, so I could definitely see Gallo by knockout. I'm not seeing it on my. I'm not even seeing. See that? I'm not being. Okay, Estrada's fighting Arce. 21-2. Yeah, come on. Estrada should stop him. Estrada should stop him. I'm not even getting an opportunity to bet on that fight. And like I said, we talked about the Argentina card. Who else is on? Burgos, Omar Roman, Enrique Juarez. There's the girls are headlining. Encinitas versus Iwakawa, the Japanese fighter. That's for a WBC title. I could see a stoppage. Real talk. The news of the fight Donaire. Post news here. PH late May. So 2 to 3 weeks prep. That's insane. Okay, but Donaire's kind of a wild card. Donaire's one of those guys that historically was kind of known for just always being ready though. I know some of these guys that I grew up with in Ohio. This was like in the 2008, 2009 when Pavlik started training with Garcia out in California. Donaire, I'm pretty sure Nonito Donaire would be out there during that era as well. And, he was like, there's legendary gym stories of that guy. Yeah. What's up, Johnny J. Tree? I'm late to the live, but what do you think about Nonito losing? That's what we were just talking about. We were just talking about that. He's traveling to Florida to commentate. So yeah, great question. I'm gonna give you my exact. I'm definitely taking action on it, and I like Campos in that fight. So I'm thinking maybe Campos money line and Juan Estrada by knockout. My book isn't letting me take the Juan Estrada fight. What's up, meme? But I think I'm gonna if I'm allowed, I'm gonna take Campos, who the juice is pretty decent, to win that fight against Donaire, with the hope that I'm gonna do my own due diligence, and then obviously I think Estrada should stop Arce. I think that fight's tailor-made for him, and then I'll get back to you guys on the method of victories for Rando in the house. I'll take the over. What's up, Rando Light? And then I'll get back to you on my definite prop bet for Cruz and also Hitchens, because I think there's money. Bro, the way Hitchens has been, I hope Cambosis beats him. Nathan, so I talked about it earlier. I'm cheering for George. I'm not betting on him to win, though. I think it's a good storyline. I think it's hard for me to just get past what Hitchens has physically. The length, 74-inch reach. George has a 68-inch reach. What's up, Rando? George doesn't use his jab properly. It's not a technical jab. And unfortunately for George, that's one thing Hitchens does really well. He's long, 5'11", 74-inch reach, uses the jab. Smart. I hope you're doing good though, bro. How's it going? Yeah, good, man. Everything's cracking. Here at PH, no posts of his camp, but Manny has everyday video of his camp. Manny, guys, is fighting Mario Barrios. How do you guys... So, Lloyd, down in the Philippines, how do you feel about Manny fighting Barrios? So, Lloyd's coming from the Philippines, guys. What is the sort of ethos about that fight? Are people happy in the Philippines? I mean, I assume, yeah. But are people worried for Manny against Barrios? Because when you watch this version of Mario Barrios in terms of his physicality, he's in his physical prime. Manny going to win too much heart. 46 years old, though, Nathan. We can't forget about that. And in boxing, it's easy for us to forget about 46 years old because all we remember is his prime. We only look at Manny for what he was at his best. You know what I mean? When you look at Manny, what he was at his best, he dog walks Barrios. Like, I don't think anyone would disagree. He dog walks Barrios at his best. But when was his best? 29, 30? Manny Pacquiao might have had 3 different Hall of Fame careers. This is something that's insane. And even, you know, the Floyd fans or the boxing trolls who bring up, you know, him getting knocked out, you know, that horrible moment in his career, but he came back from. When you look at his resume, the divisions, how far he went up, who he fought in those divisions segmented. He fought everybody. The best small guys, the best bigger guys. He might have had 3 different Hall of Fame careers in one. All that aside, he doesn't have a 46-year-old Hall of Fame career currently. Mario Barrios, disregard his style, is in his physical prime as a man. Think about the energy that is required. Prime Manny versus Prime Loma. Psst, psst. Get the hell out of here. Prime Manny dog walks Prime Loma. You guys are smoking. Come on. Don't get me started. I'm a huge Loma. Barrios takes this easy. Manny's been way past his prime. Yeah, I don't even think those two should be in the same chat. Prime Manny versus Prime Loma. Prime Manny, a different animal. Prime Manny, different animal. I'm giving Sasaki a shot. He definitely has a shot, Mark. Sasaki has a puncher's chance. I covered this a little bit ago in the live stream. The thing about Sasaki is that his arsenal is one-dimensional. The thing about Norman, he's still young. I think Norman's fight IQ will and should be able to get through the one-dimensional power, one punch that Sasaki is going to present. So, yeah, that's my take on that. I'll give a breakdown come fight week. Yeah, Manny. Look, Loma, I don't want, how dare I say this? And this is for a lack of better terms. Because I have the most he's a Hall of Fame. I mean, I don't want to call Loma a one-trick pony. I don't want to call Loma a sideshow. I'm not calling Loma a sideshow. I'm not. But maybe, like, when I think of Lomachenko, I think, you know, let's talk about his pro career. When I think about Lomachenko, what comes to mind for me is him hitting the bag in training. This is just me, as a boxing guy who boxes. What comes to mind is, so I'm not talking about the amateur career, because everybody falls in love with that amateur career. Lomachenko's a pro. What comes to mind for me is watching him drill the bag, which was amazing. I still watch Loma hitting the heavy bag. He's so just fluid. Tap, tap. Another thing that comes to mind for me, Loma, is his feet, his you know, switching stances in the exchanges, his angle changes. And then the other thing that comes to mind for me is watching him make world champions quit on their stool. One of the most impressive streaks, in my opinion, in boxing. And when we think of streaks, we're thinking about moments in time. Think about, and I'm not calling Berlanga's streak impressive, and I'm not using Berlanga's streak to compare to Loma's. I'm only bringing it up so you guys have a focal point. Berlanga's streak of 16 fights, his first 16 fights, 16 first-round knockouts, that's a streak. That's a moment in time for Berlanga's legacy. So when I think of Edgar Berlanga, I think of that. When I think of Lomachenko, he had this streak, I think it was 3 or 4 fights, where he's fighting guys who are world champions or at that level, and they quit on their stool. Like, think about that. That's a psychological beating. Has that ever been done multiple times? I mean, we remember, what was it, Oliver McCall crying in the corner in the fight having to get stopped. I think that was Oliver McCall. He was going through some shit outside of the ring. He had a mental breakdown and he wouldn't punch. But Loma was breaking guys down, and in the middle of the ring, you know, Andrew Walters' fight, Andrew Walters' fight, a fight after him, 2 fights before him. I think there were 4 fights where Loma made guys quit in the corner because they saw the path, they saw the outcome. They were world champions. They knew how the story was going to end. So that's what I think of Lomachenko. Muhammad versus Abdullah. Super Matias, many of them. Yes, great point. Whoever just brought Matias up, same thing. When I think of Subaru Matias, we have to think about that knockout to win ratio before the Parle fight. We also have to think about that one loss that he had, that he came back and knocked the dude out. So, yeah, you're right. You're spot on. Guys, I got to end this. We're over an hour. Finally, at this stage of the game, we got the likes past the viewers, 35 and 34. We peaked at about 70 today. It's slowly growing. Stay tuned to the channel. I'm uploading another fight breakdown and analysis. I'm going to do the Donaire versus Campos upload. I'm going to try to get the Juan Francisco Estrada. I'm going to try to get to Tabiti. I have a lot of work on my end. I'm also going to go live again today in about 4 hours. I appreciate everybody here, guys. I appreciate all the support. The channel is growing because of you guys. Let's get this money. Let's go. Bang.